All right, happy Sunday. Um, I'm kind of I may have to chop this into a couple parts because you probably can't hear it, but there's a huge ass fucking wind that is already blowing all my stuff all over the ritual space after I had gotten it all together, which means I had to close the windows, which means I'm a little light on ventilation. Uh, so, a bit risky today, but there's a couple topics that happened this week about death. Talking about death and sometimes the process of it and things like that. That I kind of also wanted to relate. It's been on my mind a bit as I get ready to travel to certain cemeteries to pay respects before I leave for 3 years for Hawaii. So yeah, that was the picture that just fell over. All right. Hail to you, Zhao Gongming, and thank you for everything you've done this week with regards to fortune, wealth, and protection, because I know you're also good for that, my lord. I brought you the weekly offerings, including your own, and ask that you please let your fortune, wealth, and protection shine on me for the next week. And you already know I'll be doing a ritual with you later for someone else because I feel like they need it. And we'll have to handle that then. So, hail Zhao Gongming. Hail and thank you. And I realize I didn't get any incense for you, and I apologize for that, my lord. Let me fix that right now. All right. I was showing kind of which stuff he'd prefer, and I'm kind of thankful because it is. I'm almost out. I got it. I can't remember if I got it in Hawaii or if I got it right after that. As you can see here, I am almost out. In that box, really, really nicely smelling stuff. Here. I think I bought this off of Amazon. So, nice stuff. Pretty low smoke as far as incense go. So what I'll do is actually I'll put them both over here because he prefers that I move his idol through the incense smoke when I make an offering to him like that. He didn't request this specifically this time, but if he had to tell me every time, it'd be kind of dense, right? So, okay. This stuff is kind of brittle, so be careful. It doesn't come with incense holders. I got these, just little ceramic tiles, if you will. I got these from incense I bought at the Buddhist temple on northern Oahu. So when you buy, I'm out of all of them, but when you buy one of the, it's about this tall. It's like, I don't know, 25 or 50 sticks or something like that. It comes with one of those little tiles, and these have lasted me for a while. So, all right, hail to you, Zhao Gongming. Hail. Thank you. All right. Man, that wind is going. I'm actually really concerned about breathing this stuff in, but you can't hear me if I'm wearing a respirator. So, all right. So first his offerings, and then we'll just kind of go from there. was actually reading an article. It was written a bit ago, but some of the temples have stopped joss paper offerings and things like that because of smoke, the pollution in the stuff. They're concerned about air quality and all that. So really interesting to read. Not going to stop me. If this dies down enough, maybe I can. Nope, it's blowing in this way, so I can't do anything about it. All right. Excuse me a minute. All right. Overhead fans on. I guess that's as good as we're going to get. All right, so that article it's so old that it actually doesn't use HTTPS anymore, just HTTP. I may put it on my site. I'm not sure yet. Because it could be considered an unsafe link. So, I mean, it wasn't when I clicked on it, but anyways. So one of the interesting conversations that I've had this week is one about the separation of the two spiritual bodies when death occurs. And the first part of it was kind of like the difference between, in my opinion, that got me, the right-hand path, or at least the middle path, I'll say that, and left-hand pathers with their spirits upon death. And I have friends that have pondered this, and we disagree on as much as we agree in kind of this area. But one of the areas that we do kind of agree on is that there are different parts of the self, right? That there are higher parts of the self and lower parts of the self. And the lower part in this case would be like the ego that we are now, right here in this life. Our personality, if you will, what we identify as us. And there's, especially for people that can kind of feel it and have felt the difference, there's kind of a growing realization that the left-hand path, yes, it does cause that. All right. Let's go back to Star Wars for a bit. Okay. So when the Jedi die and they've lived, I guess you could say a decent enough life, they could come back at some point using, in their minds, the Force, right? So they come back, and it's not the same it's not the same them, if you will, that was here. It's more like the purified version of it. And in my opinion, that's kind of the goal of cultivation, at least for the spirit as a whole, to help maintain life after death once you have achieved a sort of milestone, if you will. And it has a sense, more of a sense of service to it, and it should be considered like an idealized form of the self, in my opinion. Jesus Christ! All right, whew. Wind gusts is moving stuff around the room. All right, so in other words, what you're seeing is going to be the idealized form of the self. Now, if any of you've done like Helios Unbound, for example, then you'll recognize that a similar thing is kind of happening there. They're just calling it the Holy Guardian Angel, right? It's really not much different, in my opinion. Very similar process. It's just theirs kind of stops there, and then that thing kind of has control over you from then on, which sounds like a really fucking stupid idea to me. But others may need that. They may need that kind of self break that they do. But the process is pretty similar. You build up the spiritual body, an idealized spiritual body of the self, using specific practices, maybe specific energies, and then you go about your way. Black magicians, on the other hand, want to preserve the ego, right? At least all of them I've ever known. Woo! Jesus Christ. All right. So anyways, so the black magicians, they're more concerned with preserving the ego. They want this part of them now to live forever. Of course, it's not going to live forever, and generally speaking, it's not going to, depending on what your version of forever is, and it's not the idealized form of the self. It's going to be just as limited, just as flawed as they are themselves as people, because that's what's being carried on, right? And if that's a goal, that's a goal. Personally, I would probably want to do an idealized form myself and transfer myself over to it, but I guess that's me, right? So anyways, that conversation came up not too long ago, because there are parts of spirits. There was an encounter that some friends of mine had with some spirits that caused them a lot of trouble, and so there are kind of some specific ways that you can deal with those things once you have an idea of what you're looking at. And that's what I was looking at, essentially, was not necessarily a black magician, because it's not just a black magician. It's more of like the intent in maintaining that. You don't have to be a black magician to do that. You could be a white magician that wants to preserve your ego. That's whatever. It's up to them, not me. But that's what we were literally looking at, and they were having problems with it, and so I intervened on that. So it was actually a really interesting thing, because once you can kind of feel that, you kind of have an idea of what you're going to be looking at upon death, if you will. Now, some of us have died, and I've died many times. First time when I was like really, really young, at least the first time I remember, I'll say that. And that is, those are stories from different times, but you start to realize, once you gain the ability to sense other spirits in a more holistic way, that there are some parts of those spirits that you knew in life that are now different after they've died, to know that there are potentially different parts of the spirit. And I'm afraid that's where we have to leave it for now, because I really don't inhale this stuff, and I'm going to have a scratchy throat tomorrow, as it probably is. So we'll have to save the rest of the conversation for another time, but it absolutely is on my radar. So hail Zhao Gongming, hail and thank you.